Hey everybody, and welcome to the last video in my 10-part series of how to set up your first marine aquarium. And what you are seeing is me with a 72-hour no lights to fight the dino flagellates that I have. Hopefully you'll never get to this point. It's a killer in the hobby, and if I would have done a better job quarantining my livestock, quarantining everything I added in, I wouldn't have gotten here. But alas, here I am. Please like, subscribe, check out my website. It'll be listed down here below. It's just www.thereeftankblog.com. I've been making a lot of changes and updates with links to my own personal blog, but also educational series and other people's takes on various things. Video 10, this last video, is caring for your tank. Basically, I'm talking about long-term care. What do you need to do in the long term? Maintenance on a daily, weekly, monthly, so on and so forth. And then talk about aquarium controllers. So, soon as I come back, I will not be showing you my beautiful tank because everyone is hopefully sleeping and hibernating inside my tank pretty well. But I will just walk you through what I do for my maintenance schedule. All right, be back soon. All right, everybody, so welcome back. So I've laid out for all of you basically my long-term maintenance supplies, what I use on a daily, weekly, monthly, and annual basis. And I'm going to talk about pretty much everything on here, but I'm going to talk about it as we hit on what you need to do every single day. And I'm really sorry that I can't show you my tank, but as you saw from the very beginning, I can't even peek in there because I cannot let any light in there as I'm trying to beat back these dino flagellates. Anyway, okay. So, maintenance schedule. First of all, your daily maintenance, all right? Check the health of the livestock. Do you notice anything different? Do your fish have any weird spots? Are they doing any weird behaviors, you know? Snails, are they not moving around as much? I mean, you're going to get to know the personalities of your livestock, and you want to check them. You want to make sure they're healthy. If something is dying, you know, instead of waiting for it to die in the tank, there are ways that you can humanely finish, help it die, you know, more quickly and more humanely, you know, but only do that if it's obvious that it's going to die, you know, and but you can look up those ways. I personally use ice water, and that seems to work pretty well, but hopefully that doesn't happen very often. Calcium and alkalinity dosing. If you notice in the upper left-hand corner there, that's where I have all my BRS dosing supplies. I'm missing I have it in there, soda ash, calcium chloride. But if you don't have an automated doser and you have SPS, LPS, corals, some clams, stuff like that, you know, you're probably going to have to dose on a daily basis. And it's a good idea to dose on a daily basis anyways. That way you don't have huge spikes in your pH or in any of your water parameters. Freshwater top-off. Where's your auto top-off system? I used to use one of those big buckets on the left. Now I have about a 10 to 15 gallon tub that I use. That's just underneath the counter in the back, which I can show you guys later. If you don't have an automatic auto top-off, then every single day you're going to have to account for how much water's been evaporated and then refill that with fresh RODI water. Preferably at least room temperature, because you don't want to, you know, set the temperature down. And you also don't want the salinity to spike. You know, my tank, it's about 43 gallons in total water volume. I say I average about a gallon a day of water evaporating. So that's just a general sense for the size of your tank, what you're going to need. Feeding. What are you going to use for feeding? Let me point out a couple things here for feeding. What do I use for feeding? Well, I'm going to talk about it, then I'll zoom in here in a minute. But make sure you have to be feeding daily. You know, some things every day, some things not every day. One of the biggest mistakes reefers make is overfeeding. So be really careful. You can really hurt your tank by putting too many nutrients into it. And lastly, an equipment check. You're going to know every sound that your equipment makes and when it sounds strange. For example, on my Red Sea reefer, I know when the emergency overflow is engaged, and I can tell when my overflow is too low in the back. I can tell when my RODI top-off is stuck because there's too many micro bubbles, you know, but you want to check. You want to make sure that everything's working properly. You want to make sure that there's no drips, no leaks, you know, so just do a quick look around your tank, both in your tank and in your sump. Check out all of your equipment. Okay, that's daily. Weekly, obviously, do everything daily, and then weekly, you're going to clean your glass. All right, going to use glass cleaners. Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna change up what I'm doing here, and I'm gonna take you in, and I'm going to be pulling out stuff. So hold on one sec. We'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. I realized that wasn't the best way of doing things. Okay, so here we go. Cleaning glass cleaning. What do I use? All right, so I use pretty much. I scrape it, but this is weekly. This is a stainless steel head here. You can also attach these other heads on it as well to scrub off algae and stuff off of your glass. The thing I use the most is the flipper. The flipper is awesome. It has both glass for the algae, and then the top here is for glass walls. But if you have acrylic, you obviously do not want to use that. You want to use plastic. This thing can flip in the tank. You've probably seen videos of it. It's expensive, but it's awesome. Well worth it. So cleaning your glass, scraping it, razor blades also work pretty good. And then, of course, just, your standard friend, the toothbrush, works excellent for cleaning the glass. 10% water changes, right? Some people set up fancy stuff. Literally, this is what I have, right? I just have these down for weight, but they actually aren't strong enough, right? But water changing, just use your tubing, use your piping. That's all you're going to need. Pretty simple there for your water changes. Test alkalinity, basically test everything. So if we look over here, here's all my testers, right? This is my TDS meter. This is what I test. I test my RODI to see if it's working. I always want to treat it 0 when it's coming out, so really good purchase there. You can get them on Amazon for cheap. All right, this is my refractometer. I've already showed everybody that. Make sure you have one of these. They are really good. And make sure you also get the refractometer calibration solution so that you can calibrate it correctly. I also use these if you live in an area where you have chlorine. Right, this will tell you chlorine and chloramines. Will also be useful for showing you how well your RODI unit's working. Okay, then also for testing here, I have my Phosphate Pro, Reef Foundation, and Marine Care down at the bottom, basically allowing to test for all my phosphates, calcium, alkalinity, magnesium, so on and so forth. Okay, so that's what I do on a weekly basis. Once you get better and you know your tank more, you won't need to do it quite that much. Clean the skimmer and filters. All right, I literally just use one of my brushes to clean it out, empty out all the skimmate, and then for cleaning the filters, I have basically a sponge filter that I take out and I rinse every single week. I replace my filter sock every week, sometimes even more than that, right? And then I take that out and I clean it. I actually clean it either by hand or in a tub using bleach, and bleach is okay to use, but you just can't put your filter sock back in wet. You have to clean it, rinse it out, rinse it with fresh water, and then let it completely dry for at least 24 hours, and then you're going to be on the safe side there. So you make sure you clean out all those filters. Vacuum the sand. I don't have a vacuum right now, but I will be getting one so I can vacuum the gravel, vacuum the sand, and then clear salt creep. Underneath your tank, just make sure you take your toothbrush and clear all your salt creep and put it back into the water. Okay, that's your weekly maintenance. All right, now we're on to monthly maintenance. All right, change all of your media, your GFO and your carbon, okay? So I have reactors, and my GFO right here goes into one reactor. I change that, make sure you rinse it out appropriately. And I also change my carbon, which is right there. I change my carbon every week, a small amount. Carbon really works really well the first few days, and then it peters off. So the more you change it, the better, but you just don't need a lot of it. And then my GFO I change every other week, although that's a bit too much. I really don't need to do it that much at all. Test for magnesium once a month. Really, you don't need to test for it more than that because magnesium drops in your tank pretty slowly. So just make sure you're testing for that at least once a month. Clean and recalibrate your probes. Okay, so for cleaning your probes, you're just going to take this guy again, and then you're going to see here I have the calibration solution. A really good habit. You probably don't have to do it every month, but it's best case scenario. Really cheap. Each of these packs, you basically buy your pH 10 and your pH 7 and whatever controller you have. It will explain to you exactly how to calibrate them, but it's good to calibrate just to make sure your probe's not falling off too much. Once you start noticing your probe not keeping its calibration, it's time to replace your probe, probably once a year, once every 2 years at most. And then test RODI unit with TDS meter. Basically, you are going to be using your fancy TDS meter, and then right here. And if you are starting to notice that you're getting a reading that's 0, right, it may be time to do things like replace your filters. So this is just, you can see 5 micron filter. You are going to need to replace your reverse osmosis filter once a year about, depending on how much you use it. Your deionization resin once a year, but again, this is all going to vary on how much you use it. And the thing about all this cleaning, all this maintenance schedule, is it's going to totally vary. Totally vary. So I'm just giving you some basics, and then you're going to have to adjust it accordingly. All right, semi-annual, once every 6 months. You're going to clean all pumps and power heads, and that's where the vinegar comes in. All right, vinegar is the acid that you're probably going to use, just plain white vinegar, to clear off all that calcium buildup. So you're going to take them out. You're going to soak them in 1 part vinegar to 5 parts water, although you can add more vinegar and then it will just be quicker. And then you're going to scrub everything down so that you can make your pumps and everything last longer. So yeah, you're just going to go and buy a bunch of cheap white vinegar for doing that. You're going to clean your tubing and you're going to clean your pipes, right? You're going to do things using, you can get longer wire brushes to clean all your tubing. You can also take them off, soak them in vinegar as well, because you're going to have some calcium buildup there as well. And then just remove any calcium buildup that you see on any of your equipment. Lastly, yearly maintenance. If you have metal halides, if you have T5 lighting, any kind of fluorescence, you're going to want to replace your bulbs every single year. So just take that. If you have LEDs, they do have a shelf life on them. So if you can borrow a PAR meter, or you own one, you can check to see when the PAR rating does start to decrease. Maybe 5-10 years, basically, is kind of the thought right now for the lifespan of LED lights. And lastly, on an annual basis, replace your reverse osmosis membrane. Check all of your RODI. Check your carbon blocks, your DI resin, all that kind of stuff, just to make sure everything's good. All right, regarding anything I missed over here, let's see, what else do I use? I just use this for cleaning the outside of the glass. Make sure when you clean your glass, you're just using water, you're not using any sort of chemicals. Obviously, you're going to have measuring sticks, stuff like that. Oh yeah, something I haven't showed you guys. If you have any sort of fish that's going to jump, you're going to need a top. So you can just buy BRS, but it's really expensive. Just go to like Home Depot or whatever you have, and you can buy these kits. Basically, you buy this 1/4-inch mesh. You buy the edging. You know that you're going to put the mesh on, right? You buy the connector parts right here. And then, yeah, you can just make your own screen. And do it sooner rather than later, because if a fish might jump, it's going to jump. And I've already had one jump as well. Other things I use my fish net here, clean the sand bed, pick things out of there that, that I don't necessarily need. These are really handy as well. These are just tube cutters right here. Really good for your RO tubing, really cheap. Make nice clean cuts, so definitely recommend buying one of those. And then over here I have my automatic feeding system for when I'm away. I use this bottle here to mix up my reef chili, basically food for my corals, any sort of filter feeder. I also use a feeding ring that you're going to see there, and I use that for my clowns because anytime I put food in, it just goes in the overflow. So rather I put the food inside the feeding ring and it stays put. Turkey baster is an absolutely wonderful purchase. Use it all the time. Keep stuff moving. You can blast the sand, blast animals if they need to move, blast whatever, really. Definitely recommend getting it. I have 2 lights that I use. I use this little Energizer one here, and I use it because it has a red setting, and that's really good for nighttime. I don't really use the flashlight much, but I also have a UV setting here. It's the blue. It's the kind of stuff you see on like CSI. This is really good for nighttime, and it also shows the fluorescence. Don't put this in your eye, obviously. 2 kind of tapes I use all the time. Plumber's tape right here. Really good to secure anything water related. And electric tape, super handy. I can use it all the time. Much easier to take off than duct tape. I also have one of these like old granny thingies. See right here? This is great. Just make sure I don't have to put my hand in very often at all. All right, that's that. When we come back, we're going to talk about controllers. All right, so I just wanted to show you in my closets where I keep my salt. I keep this 20-gallon here. This is for my fresh RO water. And then over here is where I have my salt water. And you can buy these little dollies online, 25, 30 bucks. Awesome, super heavy to move stuff around. All right, then I go back over here, right? And this is where I keep my 2-part and my top off. So my 2-part calcium alkalinity are there. And then my RO reservoir is here, and everything is controlled and pumped directly to my pump. So that's just where I make sure everything's full. Okay, so here we go, talking about the controller. There really are 2 controllers out there. I mean, there's more than that, but basically you're looking at your Neptune Apex, which is what I have, and then you're looking at the Digital Aquatics Reef Keeper. The primary difference between the two, Neptune's more expensive, and then Neptune has a really robust online user base, and also a really nice online tool called the Neptune Apex Fusion, which is just really nice, updated quite frequently. You can control it from anywhere. You can also do online stuff with the Reef Keeper. It's just not quite as easy as it is with this. So let me show you my controller. Okay, this right here is the brain. Okay, yeah, this is the computer, basically. Okay, this is the controller. Really just shows me the readings, configuration, settings, stuff like that. Over here is my energy bar. These are amazing. I have 2 of them. All right, and that's basically what I have. Right, everything else is kind of done online, and I want to tell you about what I use my Neptune Apex for. Basically, if you'll see here, every single one of these outlets is individually controlled. And that's the primary thing I do. I can turn them on and turn them off, and use sensor probes. So if you look over here, I have a temperature probe connected right here and my pH probe here. You can add an ORP or a second pH probe as well, which I don't need to do at this time. So what do I use mine for? I use it to keep my temperature steady with plus or minus 0.1 degree Fahrenheit, which is awesome and pretty hard to do. I monitor pH to discover trends. There's a graphing function for the pH, so you can see when it goes up and when it goes down, and you can learn how to dose, whether you need Kalkwasser, pH stabilizers, and figure out what exactly is happening. Let's see, to log my water chemistry, my Neptune Apex will keep a record of all of my testing, all my water parameter testing. To individually control everything, so for example, when I need to turn something off to do maintenance, I don't have to come and find it and unplug it. I can just go on my phone, click off, and it will automatically wirelessly send a signal and turn that sensor off, which is awesome. It saves you so much time. To have a backup heater ready, I have both a primary heater and a secondary heater set up, and I'm able to do that, and I can keep my secondary heater turned off, right here. But when my primary heater dies, I have a program, so this one will click on. So really safe way to back that up. I also receive emails and text alerts from the computer, so if pH is off or temperature is off, that's pretty awesome. And then to stay organized, like everything is so organized when you have a controller. Definitely something that's awesome. And then you can easily integrate like an old iPhone 4 or something like that to have live video, which I do, so that when I log into my Neptune Apex Fusion dashboard, I can see a video of what exactly is happening in my tank. And then there's so many other things you can do that you can add on to it. You can add you can leak detection sensors. I have mine set up to do my 2-part dosing. Right, basically I have these 2 BRS dosers plugged in to my outlet here, and they turn on and off at a set schedule so that they dose the correct amount. Anyway, there's just so much you can do. You can check it out online. They're expensive. The basic one that I purchased, $525, and then I've added a second EB8 over here, and those are about 125 bucks. But if you just want to get started, you can get a Reef Keeper Lite for under $200. Really good purchase, and I have nothing negative to say about that. Alright, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching these videos. My next step here, I'm going to be producing some written materials on these videos so that you don't have to sit and watch these ridiculously boring long videos. Hit me up any questions. Check out my website. I'm going to be updating that quite frequently as well, and keep you guys updated with what's going on in my tank, and then also sharing with you guys links to great articles and channels and websites that have helped me with various issues throughout these years. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys, and I'll talk with you all soon. Bye.